Hey. This always happens. What's up, YouTube? We hope everybody is doing well out there. We're going to give y'all a second to come on in.
Hi, what's going on? What's happening? Welcome to Relationship Thursdays with the Ma'ats. This is fabulous, phenomenal, fantabulous, fizzle fozzle.
Really? I'm all in? I'm all in?
My boo. Oh, I can do it. My boo. I didn't decide if I want to sing it, if I want to say it. This is my sweetheart. This is my man, my husband, my everything. I use my aunt.
And this right here is the love of my life, my queen, my sensation,
do that back
my
in the day.
impeccable, my divine compliment, out of my wife.
Yes, thank you. Who used to do that back in the day?
I don't know.
Who used to do that? Who used to do this back in the day in WWE? It would come
I should know this.
WWF, not WWE. They'd be like, Hulk Hogan.
Oh, Hulk Hogan?
You remember that?
Nah.
So anyway, what's going on, family? Welcome to Relationship Thursdays. I see you coming on into the room. I see Shavannah. Shavannah, what's going on? And I see Dave. How you doing, Dave? And Marjani representing East Orange, New Jersey. And Music Lover. I see you, Music Lover, on YouTube.
We're going to give y'all a second to tune on in.
Welcoming you to yet another Relationship Thursday. Yet another opportunity to come in the room. If you have a spirit, you know.
If you have a spirit?
Few little spirits. This is a spirit. This is spirits.
Okay.
I don't even know if that's correct. I just try to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. You know, go ahead and let's toast up on this evening as we get ready to talk about some real good stuff. But I want to continue to say what's going on to folks coming into the room. Tell us where you are watching us from. Where are you representing from? What's up, Tiffany? I see you.
What's up, Terry?
Our sis Carol from South Carolina. You're in Columbia, South Carolina, and we're going to South Carolina in a couple of weeks. We're going on vacation to Myrtle Beach. So we're going to be in South Kakalaki, Carol. And I see Terry. Terry is in Paris, Texas. Terry's in Paris.
Okay.
Paris, Texas. Okay. And I see Nolita in Ohio representing.
Shavannah, she represents the DMV.
I had lipstick on my teeth.
Oh, you did?
That looks good.
It took you all this time.
Y'all let me know. So, LaDonna, I see you represent the Alexandria.
What's up, Fred?
Okay. So, guys, what are we going to be talking about this evening? What is it that we are going to get into? We really want to just ask everybody a question. I don't know if you've been in this situation. I don't know if you're in it now. Are you experiencing or have you experienced emotional abuse and you're not aware of it? You don't even know what's going on. Because a lot of times dysfunctional behaviors and messed up situations with partners and relationships, not even just intimate partner relationships, in all relationships, you know, for that matter, we get used to like funky dysfunctional patterns and we think this stuff is normal, and it ain't. It's not at all. And so tonight we want to just, you know, run some things past you. We want you to really kind of like think about this thing. Like, is this kind of like emotional abuse? What is this? Let me check for myself. Because if you don't check for yourself, guess what? Nobody else is going to check for you. And when I say that, I mean, let me tell you something. As much as my husband loves me and cares about me, and as much as I adore this man and he is my everything, let me tell you something. I will treat him how he allows me to treat him. Because that's the nature of a human being. And he will come at me and give me whatever I allow him to come at me and give me. You know what I'm trying to say? He will give. I didn't even have no wine yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to give me what I allow. And so when we say that, you know, what I'm really trying to convey is you have to check for yourself. You have to get yourself. You have to have your own back before anybody else. Anybody else is going to do it for you as well. So tonight we want to, again, if you're just joining us, we want to talk about emotional abuse. We want to see if you've experienced it. If you do, and if you know, like, yes, I'm in it right now. I done been there. I'm not for that no more. Or, you know, I kind of struggle because I find myself in this dynamic and I don't really know how to deal with it. Or maybe you minimize it. I don't know. Then, you know, be real and drop a comment and let us know where you are with it. I see you, Janet Jones, joining us again this evening. Welcome Welcome, welcome. Again, if you are just joining us tonight, we're talking about emotional abuse. Have you experienced it? Are you experiencing it and you're not aware of it? You know, do you think that that's just like normal and it's okay? And, you just kind of gloss over. Matter of fact, you want to just keep on scrolling down your Facebook feed because you're like, it's not really all that. No, it really is. And, you do teach people how to treat you by how you respond to emotional abuse. And then you have to recognize it. Yeah, recognize it before you can respond to it. We let people come at us all kind of ways in our intimate relationships and even in other relationships because we don't even recognize that someone has crossed the line. They've crossed the line. So tonight we want to talk about that, but we want you to first share the video. Can you share the video, please?
Yeah, please share the video, y'all. Go ahead and share
the video.
It. Because I know it's somebody that's on your timeline, your news feed that could benefit from the information that we're about to give you. A lot of people are walking around in their relationship really quietly suffering in secrecy. And they're experiencing this whole emotional abuse piece. And so it's imperative that we let them know that they're not alone and that they don't have to suffer in silence based off of the fact that there's people out here trying to help them. So again, please share this video if you haven't already done so, and realize that there's people out here who need help, not just you, not just us, but there's a lot of people that need help and can benefit from the information that we're about to share. For those who are just joining, if you don't already know, again, my name is Abusive. My aunt, this right here is my incredible wife, my queen. The queen of this castle, Iana, my item. We're both licensed therapists, and even though we are therapists, this right here is not therapy, y'all. If y'all do want to engage in some therapy or some coaching with us, we dropped the link both on YouTube as well as on Facebook. What's up, Fine 29?
Hey, sis.
I know Bruce going to be joining us soon.
Yvonne. I see Yvonne as well. Yvonne Peters. Welcome, sis. So we're going to ask you some questions and we're going to talk about some things. I really do hope that somebody somewhere this evening watching in some way at some point tonight is able to be transparent and to share something that you've dealt with or you've gone through in the past, because it's not through us just kind of like giving some questions for you all to think about or throwing some things out there to prompt you and make you think like, oh, dag, maybe I hadn't thought about this, or I need to, talk to somebody and kind of share with them like you're in a bad situation. It's not just us doing that. It's us hearing from each other. It's us hearing from another person who is going through or has gone through something that we are going through or that we have gone through. That's where the connection happens, and that's where we're able to really be a light to somebody else, maybe to give you some courage to look at some things that you ain't been wanting to look at, maybe to address some stuff that you hadn't really known how to address, maybe to stand up inside of yourself and for yourself. Because again, if you don't do it, nobody else will. So I just want to go ahead and, shout out Carol, because Carol says, I'm in it now. So go ahead. I just want to give you some energy, the vulnerability off the top.
Go ahead and give Carol some hearts.
Yes.
Just for being courageous enough to share that she's in it right now.
Well, she said, I'm in it now.
Let's give Carol some hearts.
She said, I'm in it now. Knew I was in one. I guess you're talking about an emotionally abusive relationship. And am aware I am in one. I won't continue in one because thank y'all for the hearts for Carol. Carol, those are for you. I won't continue in one because over the last week, I made the decision to do me because nobody else in this house cares about me. Wow. I'm doing what I need to do for my mental well-being so I won't go over the edge. And she said, and I have my wine right now. So Carol, I just want to give you a shout out. You do have to be able to do what you need to do for yourself. And I'm happy and I'm glad that you're recognizing some things. I will be honest with you, and I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind. Anytime I hear anybody say nobody cares about me. You said nobody in this house cares about me. Nobody at work, nobody in my family, nobody. Anytime, that's a red flag for me. Because that's an absolute. And that's an extreme. And so, I'm not saying, I'm giving you kudos because you're being real and you're saying, I'm in an emotionally abusive relationship. I'm recognizing it. I'm seeing it. You know what I mean? But anytime you say nobody, I'm like, wait a minute. Let's just go ahead and pause for a second, because that says to me that there may be some black and white thinking that you're doing. And if you're doing that and you're making everybody an enemy or someone who doesn't, people don't care about you, then that means you're not able to find your support, and you're probably overlooking support that you have. So I just want to give you that, sis, because there may be some support that you have that you're not recognizing, because you might be clumping everybody together. But again, shout out to you for being real. All right, let's get it going. We're going to prompt with some questions. Hey, sis, see you, Anika. So let's get it going. We're going to ask some questions. We're going to put some things out there. And I do, again, want you all to go ahead and drop a comment and let us know if you've experienced emotional abuse, if you're dealing with it now. And we're talking about in intimate relationships. But one thing we know about us as people, if there's some things that you hear tonight that sound familiar, because maybe you find yourself in that situation now or you have in the past in an intimate relationship, 9 times out of 10, in some way, some shape, some form, it's happening in other relationships, and maybe you're just not aware of it. Because wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. If you tend to shrink, or you tend to become aggressive, or you tend to allow people to kind of put upon you, it doesn't just happen in your intimate relationship. It might be a little easier to see, but it happens in other ways too, more than likely. What's going on, Bruce? We see you, my brother.
What's up, Bruce? Hey, so to set the tone, y'all, give some hearts. I don't know if you can raise a hand or whatever.
To these hearts,
but give some hearts. If you've been in an emotionally abusive relationship before.
Oh, that's easier to do. Yeah, because some of y'all
give some hearts if you've been in an emotionally abusive relationship before. And so maybe we need to define. I see a whole bunch of hearts.
Wow.
I see a whole bunch of faces and hearts and all of that.
Okay. Okay. Wow. And my sister Courtney on YouTube says, I've been emotionally abused and I never had a mean bone in my body. But after leaving that relationship, I acquired some of those abusive traits. Ooh, that's good. I had to take a look at myself and let the past go. Because whatever happens to you, whatever you experience, in some way, shape, or form, yes, you are at risk for taking it on and becoming or demonstrating the very things that hurt you. And that thing be making me mad. Because you know how that's in so many ways, whether it's, like, I ain't trying to call my peoples out. But my people's is the most disorganized.
But you're going to call them out, though. Huh? You ain't trying to, but you're going to call them out.
You know what I'm saying? Like disorganization, organization didn't run in my family growing up. All of my parents are pastors and all of the church folks and everybody was keeping us together. Like, tell your mother she need to do this and do that. Tell your daddy, be here at this time. And so what have I taken on? Disorganization. That's a lightweight example, but in a very real sense, though, we are very much at risk for taking on the kinds of things that we are exposed to. And so I hear you on that, and I want to just give you some love, Courtney, because you're able to say, I was taking some of the stuff on and I need to let it go.
So let's go ahead and define this thing, y'all. Before we go
let's get a working definition. All right, we'll do that, Anika.
Emotional abuse is an attempt to control. It's an attempt to control in just the same way that physical abuse is an attempt to control another person. The only difference, y'all, is that the emotional abuser does not use physical hitting, kicking, pinching, grabbing, pushing, or other physical forms of harm. Rather, the perpetrator of emotional abuse
uses what?
Uses emotion as his or her weapon of choice. They use emotion as his or her weapon of choice.
So again, it's an attempt to control, right? And oftentimes people can become really confused about what is emotional abuse and what isn't, or we just had an argument. How do I know that, it's really abusive? Because, if somebody smack you, you already know they meant harm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's clear you was coming for me, but if someone says something to you that is emotionally abusive or manipulative or what have you, oftentimes they don't even know. They're not aware that that's what they're doing. So there's no way that somebody can get out of, kicking you. Of course they was trying to hurt you. But it becomes a little more difficult and nuanced to figure out, because oftentimes people are not aware that that's what they're doing, that they're engaging in emotional abuse. But for many of you, we're talking about, have you experienced it? But another question is, have you been a perpetrator? Are you now? Oh my, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you just say anything out your mouth to your partner and to people that you care about and you love, right? When you're feeling threatened or when you're feeling really angry or hurt or whatever, do you then become emotionally abusive? Wow. And you might feel as though you're defending yourself or you're just expressing yourself. And again, you're not aware potentially that is emotional abuse. So it's an attempt to control, right? And it is hurtful and it is harmful to that person's sense of self, to their the way they see themselves, the way they're able to move and flow in the world. And the way that we know that it's abuse also is because it intervenes and disrupts their way of being.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anytime we're trying to diagnose something, the way we can figure out if it's really significant and if it actually qualifies for a diagnosis is, does it disrupt your daily life?
Mm-hmm.
Does it disrupt your ability to whatever, pay your bills, go to work, connect with other people, be in a healthy relationship, be a productive citizen? So if that's happening for you or for others, right, then you know that, wait a minute, that's abuse, because it is interfering with your life. It is an attempt to control. You are struggling with that, and it does not allow you to be able to move and flow in a productive, healthy way. So we got to pay attention to that.
So let's go ahead and ask these series of questions, y'all, just so y'all can develop an even deeper working understanding of what emotional abuse is. We can go ahead and ping pong this thing back and forth. You looking at the questions over there or the comments?
Yeah, I am, because you keep covering them up.
Okay.
Can't you put that right there?
Yeah, I can. All right, so one of the things that you want to consider, y'all, is, does your partner, do they guilt you so that you do not go out with your friends, you don't hang out with your relatives, they want you exclusively to themselves? So they make you feel guilty for wanting to experience a relationship with other people, whether it be your family members or whether it be friends that they have. If they do, that might possibly qualify as emotional abuse. Is anybody in that situation right now where your partner is making you feel guilty?
Well, they're trying to make you feel guilty.
Somebody said, oh my God, I'm crying.
Oh. Okay.
Are you accused of doing things wrong that you have not done wrong and then made to pay for it, even though you haven't done it wrong? So have you been accused of doing something wrong or poorly in the house, poorly outside the house? Have you been accused of doing something at work that you haven't done, but then made to pay for it or made to suffer based off of this false perception that you've done something that you ain't even done?
Right. You on the phone at work, you talking to, you know, your boo, and then somebody comes in the office and you know that you're like, oh, okay, let me just call you right back. And your boo's like, wait, who is that?
Yeah.
Who are you talking? What? I have to go. You know, meanwhile, you're like, I cannot be up on this phone. I need to go. You're like, okay, I'm gonna talk to you later. I gotta go. You hang up, you get home, and you paying for it. Like, so who is that? I mean, so you couldn't, you know, you couldn't stay on the phone with me, right? Like, and then asking a bunch of questions and saying a lot of things about your character and that kind of thing that start to get into your spirit. And did I make the right decision? Maybe I shouldn't have got off the phone. Maybe I should have put the person out of my office, right? And again, it's manipulation. I think I saw somebody say that it's manipulation. And I love what you just said, Brandy. It creates a toxic environment. It creates a toxic environment within the relationship, within the family. Right, because again, it's really about controlling, and it's really about manipulating reality, but making you feel a certain way. And
does your partner have abusive tantrums when they don't get their way? You know, do they threaten you? Do they threaten you? You know, when they can't get things the way that they want? You know, if you find yourself in that space consistently, then yeah, I would say that it qualifies for being in an abusive relationship. Now, one curious point that I want to lift up here is that, you know, we all get in our moods. You know, we all throw fits. I sometimes call it the man period.
But qualify throw fits, because some people in relationships where fits are thrown that are not just like, dude, like, you need to grow up. Like, that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't be throwing no fits. Like,
so yeah,
you know?
so tantrums. I mean, sometimes people might say that stonewalling is a tantrum. You know, where you just refuse, or you're just quiet, you block somebody out, you know, aren't willing to engage, you basically say, you know, you do you, I'm gonna do me, I'm not giving you any answers, I'm not engaging you on any of this, I'm not talking to you, I'm just quiet, you know. And so as a result, that's a form of emotional abuse, because you're in a relationship with somebody and it requires both of you to participate in. You're
saying stonewalling. So again, stonewalling is that technical term for blocking people out, not talking, shutting down. You're saying that's emotional abuse, though? I mean,
yeah, if it's done repetitively, if it's done, you know, over a period of time, then yeah. You know, sometimes people use that as a defense mechanism, which I would say, again, done over time, is unhealthy. And it's really the incorrect way to flow in your relationship, because what it does, it can build resentment. Your partner can start to develop resentment as a result of you engaging in that behavior. And so that can be emotionally abusive, because you're trying to control them by being quiet.
That's true.
You're trying to control their response, their reaction to you, and how they show up in a relationship by you being quiet, by you shutting up. There's been a number of times and a number of situations where we work with couples, and one partner might say, I'm just going to shut down. I'm going to step outside. I'm going to go to another room. I'm going to sleep in the basement. I'm going to sleep in the basement to punish you, even though I'm in the wrong.
And sometimes, and so again, getting to that whole point of the attempt to control and manipulate, that kind of thing. I mean, sometimes people do just need a moment, right? And they're quiet and they do shut down because that is the way that they maintain themselves or whatever. But doing it for what you're talking about, where it's repetitive and, you know, it's punishing behavior and it's that kind of thing. Yeah, that would be emotional abuse. And somebody says it depends on how long you're quiet, right? It depends on the intention.
And the intensity, the intention and the intensity.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So are you in a relationship where, whether you realize it or not, you're making the relationship, not whether it's you, because there's some of y'all, it ain't somebody doing something to you, it's y'all. It's you, it's you. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord. Standing in the need of prayer. I mean, let's just be real. Some of y'all on here, y'all ain't talking about nobody but yourself. You're just hearing about yourself right now. And that's okay. That's okay. We just got to be real about, you know, what it is that we're being exposed to and then do something with it. But do you, or does your partner make the relationship all about serving their needs? So much so that your opinions and feelings do not matter. And there is oftentimes a dynamic in relationships, particularly where there's a person who is perhaps more expressive, more dominant in terms of their desires, their wants. They're more decisive, very clear. This is what I need, very needy, very, you know, demanding. And they kind of have that kind of flow. And then another person who tends to be more amenable, a little more laid back, what have you. And that dynamic, first of all, we see it all the time because two demanding people ain't gonna work. Well, and you know, so you can't have that anyway, right? And two accommodating people just accommodating all the time, that don't work, right? So that's natural. Okay, so on some level that works, and the two people kind of come together to help each other in their own way with their own strengths. But when you find that, you know, wait a minute, let me ask myself, like, when's the last time that, you know, I said what I wanted? When's the last time I lifted up, you know, my concerns and they were actually addressed? Why does it always end up that we kind of find ourselves back at what my partner, you know, is thinking, wanting, or we just end up going that direction? Whether it's them pulling me that way or I just give up because it's like, you know, it's just too hard. I don't feel like, you know, going through this process. Again, that right there is a sign that there may be emotional abuse happening in the relationship. And so you gotta be willing to look at that. Anytime there's a pattern of behavior, then that is a huge sign that you are going perhaps in the wrong direction, because these things happen from time to time. You know what I'm saying? But patterns and like you said, frequency and intensity, you know, like this is how it goes down 90% of the time, 75% of the time. That is the thing you want to be looking at as we go through some of these things tonight with you.
And have you slowly stopped being yourself? You know, have you slowly stopped operating from a space of authenticity, and have you learned over time to negate your own needs? This one right here is really interesting because you being in an emotionally abusive relationship more than likely didn't begin with the relationship that you're in.
Right.
You know, a lot of times you're choosing the partner that you're choosing because they're meeting a particular need inside of you. Or you're trying to recreate a relationship dynamic that you experienced in your formative years. So the emotional abuse may not have started with your partner. It could have started with your parents. The emotional abuse, again, may not have started with your partner. It could have started with your parents.
And with your parents unaware.
Yes.
They're not dragging you down the steps and beating you up over the head. And they're not saying, I wish you were never born. They don't even have to do all of that. That of course, that's clearly abuse, right? But it can also be parents who might be a little more self-absorbed. They have some narcissist traits, right? Might think that you just are a child and you need to be quiet and sit down and do what I say. You know what I'm saying? And they love you to death, but they still are teaching you the way to be in relationship is to submit to what is being said and to get in alignment, right, with what the program is, and then you take that into your relationship. You see what I'm saying? So we got to be able to see those things. A lot of women
wrestle with that thing. You know, a lot of women wrestle with this whole piece about get in alignment, especially if you're in a relationship with a man. Again, we live in a patriarchal society, and the expectation in a lot of relationships is that women get in formation, they get in alignment with their man, and you know, as a result. Depending upon how it was when you grew up, you know, you could find yourself in a space constantly in an emotionally abusive relationship because really you feel as though you don't have no voice. You can't speak your piece. You can't share what's on your mind. You can't operate from a space of authenticity. And as a result, you negate you. And that's a horrible way to live. To exist really in a state of negation is not the way you want to live. It's not honoring the divine within you. So you want to make sure that you check that and ask yourself, am I operating from that space? When it comes to this whole, whether or not it's a result of what you experienced in your upbringing, some people experience an emotionally incestuous relationship in their formative years.
Oh man, that's a live stream
Emotionally
unto
incestuous
itself.
Relationship, yes.
Yeah.
Where your parents made you responsible for them feeling good.
For their happiness.
For their happiness, yes.
Oh, goodness.
You know, how well are you performing in school? Do you get straight A's? My value and my self-worth is based off of your performance, child.
Yes.
My self-worth is based off of how you're showing up, how you're dressing, daughter. My self-worth is based off of how you're showing up on a basketball, football field, or wherever it may be, son. Again, I feel better when you perform better. And as a result, as a child, I'm starting to feel as though I'm responsible for making you happy. That's an emotionally incestuous relationship.
Jesus.
It's unhealthy for you to place that burden on a child. And as a result, when you do that, we grow up and then we think that we're responsible for making our partners happy, when that's not the case. It's really not the case. You can contribute, you can assist, but it's not your sole responsibility to do that.
What's another word for that? It's not, because it's not always emotional incest, and I just don't even like saying emotionally incest. What's another word for that? Codependency, right? Being codependent. But I just really want to lift up, guys, that sometimes, you know, it's hard for us as even adult children to be able to name the things that we've experienced in our relationships with our parents, because we feel like, you know, I had a good upbringing or whatever, you know, or, you know, my parents are good people, or we feel like we're making them bad. Our parents, just as we do, they do the best they can with what they have. And so to name something and to be able to see how it's impacted you, it's not even so much about what they did. It's more so about how you experienced it. Because your sibling can experience the same thing from your parent, and they didn't feel it that way.
Exactly.
It didn't impact them in that way. So it's about owning your own feelings, right? About how you experience something. It's not about making them bad. But when you can own that for yourself, then you're able to say, oh, wow, and look how that thing is playing out now with, you know, my friends, with my partner, whatever. And you can start to release yourself from that. Man.
Yeah, and it's I want you all to really know and internalize the fact that you're gonna give your children some shit. You really are.
Okay.
You really are. It's inescapable. It's unavoidable. We got 5 children. So you're going to dump, you're going to unload, you're going to burden your children with some shit.
It can't be all like that.
No, I mean,
burden them. And I'm trying to do better so that I don't do that.
We're trying to do better, but it's impossible to be perfect. I mean, we're walking contradictions.
Yes,
we're existing in life with flaws. And so we're passing our baggage on to our children, despite the fact that we're trying to do the best we can.
Yeah.
So I give us credit for trying to build upon what our parents have done with us. But the reality is that our children today say some stuff that they don't like. You know, they got issues with. They say that they got issues with stuff that we do now.
Yeah, they be going
and we be trying. They be going on us. Who out there got children that be going on you? They got issues with what you do. I want to make sure that I'm not alone out here. Please give us some help.
Oh, y'all gonna be like,
who got children that say that they got issues or problems, or they want to go on you?
Oh, yeah. And look. It's real quiet.
I know.
Hold on, man. What's going on?
Hold on. We don't see no heart. I know we're not the only people. I know we're not the only people.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. When we were at church, I'm not gonna call my man out. Brother came and said, you was asking about, like, you know, your kids be like pushing back and they be always, you know, trying to say little stuff. And what did he tell you?
He was like, they say nothing.
He said, push back.
What's that?
What is that?
What is that?
There's no pushing back. I was like, he was like, what are you talking about? So
but in my mind, with that registered as,
that may not always be the case.
What that registered as is
just the
potential issues.
So either way,
yeah. So if your children are not pushing back,
then
that's an indicator that it may be some stuff that's brewing, some stuff that's sublimated,
it's not safe,
and things that they have not, necessarily been willing to express. So again, that's not the best environment either.
Right. It's a balance. It
really is a balance. I wish my kids would just shut up though. I really wish they would just be quiet.
We always sit down. We had these conversations, and some of them talk a lot, just like me. And I think sometimes we probably like, well, what are you feeling? Like we do that, like maybe a little bit too much. They're like, well, what we're feeling is that, the way that you all are doing things here is not really effective.
Raquel said everybody has at least one.
You know what I'm saying?
We can attest to that one.
Let me say something. Our kids, okay, we're gonna get back on topic, y'all. But our kids, y'all, sometimes I remember when Akima was really, really little.
Why are you saying that?
Well, I tell the story all the time.
Okay.
We were really little. And so we didn't go to church this particular Sunday. And, I was feeling a little guilty, like, oh, we didn't go to church. And Oh, and hey, co-pastor. And let me tell you something. I thought I was doing something. I went and got the kids. You know the story. Sat them down. Don't you remember?
Mm.
So I said, today I read a little something from a book or whatever. And it said, we're going to do a little bit of meditation and explain what that meant and all of that. And my daughter was, I don't even know how old she was. And she raised her hand like she was in school. She said, and I said, yes, I can. And she said, this is how she looked too. I mean, I'm not even exact. She said, you're not teaching nobody nothing, mommy. You're not teaching nobody nothing. I mean, how much longer is this going to be? I was like, she was little. She was not like now, you know? And so our kids have been going on us for quite some time. That's my point. But at the end of the day, you know, the bottom line is, I think we kind of get on our kids' nerves sometimes because they like, y'all do all that talking and stuff, like, whatever. Yeah. Whatever, we don't want to hear it. Okay, so we're gonna get back on task. We didn't get a whole lot of energy from y'all.
We got a couple of
talking about your kids be going on you. Yeah. Everybody's like he told you at church, like pushback. Yeah. No, ain't none of that happening over here. They can grow up and have some issues talking about they ain't have a voice. That's fine. No voice up in here. That's okay. All right. So again, if you're just joining us, we ask that you share the video. We're talking today about emotionally abusive relationships. And are you in an emotionally abusive relationship? And for many of you, you're thinking about your intimate relationship, but wherever you go, there you are. So it can be in any relationship. And a lot of times we are not able to make changes because we don't even recognize it. We don't even see it. So we're just prompting you with some questions tonight so that you can think about exactly how you operate in your relationship. So I really want to ask this one. Do you feel better? Do you feel better? And of course they feel better when you're are you uncomfortable when you start to, you know what I'm saying, focus on, oh, you know, I really wanted to kind of join that group over there or go do this different activity or, you know, try something new or whatever. I really wanted to just, you know what I'm saying, go and I don't know. I can't come up with ideas because all I do is come home and be with my kids and my husband. But, you know, maybe one evening I just don't want to come up in here. And I just want to go out and I'm going to go get a drink with my girls on a Tuesday. And just, you know, y'all figure the dinner out and whatever. And, you know, but for you who this is resonating with, does that stir up something like, no, like I feel better, it feels easier, it feels safer. What I'm just making sure I tend to my responsibilities, that I do what I'm supposed to do. Like you talked about, get in alignment with what I'm supposed to do. And so not only does it make them feel better, but it makes you feel better. That might be a sign that you're in an emotionally abusive relationship, but that you are opening the door for that because you're looking. Oftentimes we're looking for the things that do not serve us and that do not help us. You're looking for that kind of pattern. And again, we talked about where that can come from in terms of childhood and upbringing and that kind of thing. And it's not helpful to you. You don't even know how to be by yourself. You don't know how to serve yourself. You don't know how to take care of yourself. Like I just said, I'm trying to think of like, maybe I might want to go. I'm like, dang, what would I want to do? I don't even know what I want to do. And I think that I'm doing better, but I will say that, you know, I have to be intentional about like, okay, be by yourself. Go off by yourself. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have no problem. This man would be like, you don't do it as much now as you used to, but you would. And I would get mad because he'd be like, hey, yeah, I'm going to go to the movies. You know, I think it's because we have a lot more responsibility, but you definitely will go and do you. And just go off by yourself. And then I get mad because I'm like, did he just say he goes to the movies by himself? You know, you like, ain't nobody keeping you from doing it. I'm going to take a nap. Ain't nobody keeping you from doing it. I'm like, what the heck? You know, so you have to look at whether or not you're willing to do for yourself. And if you start to feel guilty and you only feel kind of more at ease and you feel secure and you feel a little cozy when you're serving someone else, but not your own self, that's a sign that you are out of alignment and you need some tuning up in your own personal life.
So let me ask you all this question right here. You know, I want you all to close your eyes for a minute. You too. Close your eyes. Everybody close their eyes. Close their eyes. And I want you to imagine a scenario that's been challenging in your relationship. Are your eyes closed?
Yes.
Mine are closed.
I
want you all to imagine a scenario in your relationship that's been challenging.
Okay.
When you think about the thought of saying no, imagine yourself saying no. I'm not feeling that. No, I'm not doing that. No, I don't want to. No, I don't believe that. No, I'm not trying to do that with you.
I don't agree.
I don't agree. No, I think this way. when you think about saying no, what feelings come up? And I just want y'all to share, like, type some of those feelings. Type some feelings that come up when you think about saying no.
Mm.
And we're going to wait a second. When you think about saying no to your partner, type out, type up some of those feelings. And this is around an area that's kind of challenging in your relationship. So I'm not asking you to name the area. What I want you to do is to just share a feeling that comes up when you think about saying no. When you think about saying no. Oh, Brandy put hostage.
Hostage, like you can't. Suffocating.
Michael put guilt. Suffocating.
Ooh, don't want to disappoint. Fear. Pain. I see you, Lily. Hey. Oh, Dave said, yeah, I feel bad. Dave said, I feel bad. How corny you gonna say y'all so DC? We from Maryland. PG County represent.
Anger, hurt. Disappointment.
So interesting. Hurt, disappointment, anger, pain, fear, suffocating. Anger because I should say no more. So what are we afraid of, y'all? Like, what are we, I mean, let's just ride this for a minute. What are we afraid of? Like, what's the fear about?
Fear of abandonment.
Guilt. I mean, what are you feeling guilty about? And what you say, fear of abandonment, a fear of rejection. You know, I mean, let me say this. You know, my husband
fear of being alone, fear of being left. I mean, that's a very real feeling that sometimes people draw very solid, firm, and straight up deep lines in the sand. And for the entire course of their relationship, both parties are standing at the scratch line. You're standing at the scratch line, and when you make a decision, it's like the line that you can cross when you're trying to buck, trying to start something.
Okay.
So the couple is standing at the scratch line, and so when you say no, you're making a decision. There's some definitive stance that you're taking, and when you say no, it causes conflict, confrontation, and when you say no to some people, then they're just ready to dip. They can't tolerate you saying no, and so I can understand the fear because in you saying no, you feel like you might be risking losing everything. Simply in saying no. But what you miss out on is the fact that you could be gaining everything because you could be gaining yourself. You could be gaining a deeper appreciation of who you are as a person and, realizing that you've been neglecting yourself for so long.
So, I love the honesty coming on here tonight. Michelangelo said, let me go back to your last comment. He said, I want to be a positive assistance always. And then he said, if you take a step from me, I want to take 3 for you, even at my expense. But I would, when you say even at my own expense, I would ask you, why is that? Because I don't know that that's healthy. I don't know that it's not healthy. I just don't know that it is. Brandy says when no came up, silent treatment was intense. So we are trying to avoid that stuff. Fear of it. Dave said fear of it being over something simple. Fear of rejection. At least said fear of rejection. And so, I mean, I don't know. This is stirring up some stuff for me. So I don't even know. I'm like, what is going on for me right now? But I guess what I will say is that, fundamentally,
let's park.
No, we don't have to park anywhere. But wait, let me finish my sentence. Okay. What I want to say is that, everything people, I've said this before and I'll say it again, people a lot of times get irritated with us when they work with us couples because we do a lot of individual work. I split out with the person and he splits out with the other partner because, everything is really, it just comes back to us. It comes back to our own stuff. And so, I would say this, are you in an emotionally abusive relationship? That's what we're talking about this evening if you're just joining us. And so, you have to be able to look at the fact that while there are people who will manipulate, who will do certain things, a lot of times they're not conscious of it, but a lot of times they are as well. We have to really look at how we set ourselves up, how we put ourselves in situations where we are at a disadvantage, where we don't feel safe to do something because we feel somebody's going to, like, many of you have said, let us go or just be done with us. And we just want to avoid that. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want to face that. And the question I want to ask you is, if you are not able to feel safe with that person, that's something for you, to really think about and ask yourself, like, what's up with that? That I cannot express myself because I don't really feel safe with them. I mean, then who? This is my husband. This is my wife. This is my girl. This is my boyfriend. Whatever. Like, really? Especially if there's a pattern of that. What's up with that? Like, that's a problem. I've got to push beyond that. And then the next question I would ask you is this, what's required for you to feel safe? Oftentimes, it may be some things that they need to do differently, but first and foremost, you cannot feel safe with anybody else until you feel safe with yourself, that I can handle whatever comes my way, that this person might shut me out, that they might not say what I want them to say. I don't like when my husband gets mad. I feel really bad. I do not like when he's in that place. And he don't go there that often because he's a pretty agreeable dude. But when he gets mad, I wish he was more like me because I run my mouth. I want to hear what's going on. I want to know, but he's quiet and he's silent and he's off by himself. He don't want to be around me. So I don't get the warmth of his presence. You know what I'm saying? And he's off on his own. He ain't talking to me. That thing messes with me. I don't like it. So, I could try to avoid that, which sometimes I have and I do. But really, at the end of the day, and I've said this before, I've got to learn how to be alone, how to be with myself with these feelings of feeling rejected and feeling unsure and being mad and all of that, because that's what I'm really trying to avoid. I'm not trying to avoid his rejection as much as I'm trying to avoid what it causes inside of me. It makes me mad. It makes me feel some feelings I felt perhaps in the past. It kicks up things that I'm not even aware of. So I'm really trying to avoid the place that I go to because I don't want to go there. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to feel alone. I don't want that. And we've got to be intentional about allowing ourselves to just go there. The way that you get better at it is that you do the work. What does that mean, Iana? Do the work. You do the work. You go there. You allow yourself to be exposed to these funky feelings, these scary feelings, these things that we don't want. You allow yourself to go there and just sit in that mess. You just sit in it and be like, I don't like this. He shut down. I want to shut down. He get mad. I'm like a mirror. I'm getting mad too. He frowning, I'm frowning. You know what I'm saying? And my thing that I have to learn how to do better is you frown. That's okay. I can still smile. You know what I'm saying? You upset, you shut down. That's okay. That's not going to steal my joy. You know what I mean? Like, you on your own thing ain't got nothing to do with me. Maybe some of it has to do with me, but I'm going to be me and do what I need to do. That's the piece that I have to learn. And I got a long way to go. Let me just be real. I got a long way to go. But we have to stop trying to avoid dealing with our own stuff. And so if you make it safe for yourself, you don't have to rely on anybody else to make it safe for you because you will be all right.
And the interesting thing, too, is that a part of the reason why we avoid dealing with our own stuff or even saying no in a relationship is because sometimes we question whether or not we as a couple and we as individuals have the capacity to rebuild after the blow up.
Oh.
And so, my wife and I, we've been doing this thing for a long time now, married for 16 years, together for 23, again, 5 children. And then we're licensed therapists. So we've studied so we've studied this thing and we've taken classes, we've seen therapists ourselves. And so we put in the work, y'all. And so I feel extremely confident in our capacity to rebuild after the blow up. And so it's kind of akin to, and it's not, I'm going to simplify this thing, but just think about when you're playing with Jenga blocks. You're building this Jenga tower. And so you can build it very, very, very high. Y'all are playing this game, you're building a Jenga tower. And so some people try to protect that Jenga tower. They don't want that Jenga tower to be knocked down, but a part of the game, y'all, is for it to fall. A part of the game is for the Jenga tower to fall.
Yes.
And so, it's after it falls that you actually have the opportunity to rebuild. Mm-hmm. But you believe in the game that you have the capacity to put one piece on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And it takes time for it to get to where it was before. But if you don't feel as though you can put one piece on top of another, you'll just build the Jenga tower and put a protective barrier around it and not really experience the realness of what it means to play the game. And so this relationship right here, y'all, is like it's playing the game of Jenga. I'm simplifying it, but again, you got to be willing to go through that process where you engage, where you say no, where you say yes, where you say maybe, where you say I don't know, where you knock that thing down, and then you go through the process of building it back up because you learn through the experience of going through the fall. Ooh. You learn through that experience. And so when you're unwilling to engage in that process, essentially what you're doing is you're saying you're unwilling to grow. Mm-hmm. So you got to go through that, y'all. So say no respectfully. Say, I think differently. I think otherwise. I disagree. I want to do it this way. Express your mind. Express your peace. And operate from your authenticity, because that's what enhances you and elevates the relationship.
Yes, yes, yes. There's one last thing that I want to lift up for you tonight. As you think about all of the things that may have stood out to you in terms of, you say you on another level tonight, my brother. As you think about whether or not you're in an emotionally abusive relationship, or maybe there's some elements of your relationship that have been emotionally abusive. A lot of times too, we make things very black and white. We make relationships black and white. It's emotionally abusive. Get rid of him. Bye. It's all bad. Yeah. And I want to be very careful here. There are some things that are not acceptable and that you do need to separate from. But sometimes, there's some elements that you need to look at, and it doesn't mean that it's all bad, right? So be That's able important. to distinguish that. And if you need some help distinguishing that, because sometimes we need some help, then you need to find a trusted person to kind of talk through that with. But the last thing I want to lift up for you all tonight is this, a classic sign of an emotionally abusive relationship is that the person who is engaging in emotional abuse, they have these really nuanced ways of drawing you in and really kind of, I don't want to say pimp you, right? But, they how to make you feel sorry for them so that you don't realize the abuse. I cannot tell you how many times I have talked to women who are able to tell me their boo's trauma story better than their boo can tell it. Their boo don't even know. They're like, I actually didn't make that connection. But they have made all the connections, he don't have a good relationship with his mother, and she wasn't around, and she was doing drugs for a little while. She got her life together, but when she came back and she got them back from living with their for 5 years, she really didn't connect with him and spend time, and he got a lot of anger, so sometimes he projects that anger. I mean, y'all, my sisters out here know you all, we will break it down, and we just have so much compassion for them, and we want them to be able to overcome some of the stuff, right, that they are going through, and so they may have some general understanding, and so when they know, and this is just one example, when your partner, whether it's man, woman, whatever, right, knows that you get that piece, and you're able to articulate it better than them, and they bring that out, and you just have a soft spot, right? And it's just like, and they bring that out so that you can kind of lean into that, and then it makes you pause and be like, well, he is better than, my last man, and if she is doing better than she used to do, and it gets in the way of you being able to have good boundaries, draw a line and say, I don't care how many times this happened to you, I don't care what went on, I don't care about how hard it is out here, you trying to find a job and the man is on your back and whatever, like, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the bottom line is that I got to take care of myself, and you will respect me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be willing to draw a line in the sand. So do not allow, yes, somebody said too much compassion. Do not allow, your knowledge of somebody's hard times and things they're going through, the things they have to deal with, and do not allow them to draw you into seeing that, so that things start to become conflated, confusing, and blurry. And you're like, like, we're doing good. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because you need to be willing to call a thing, like my sister Iyanla Van Zandt says, call a thing a thing. Yeah, you went through that. And this mess you're bringing up over here, it's not okay. It's not cool. And I'm not going for that. I'm not taking that. And you got to be willing to be clear. Yeah. Anika made a great point. As long as we tiptoe around things, we will never get free. But we also block opportunities for healing for our partner. Yes, we do. You're not keeping everything together because you're doing that tiptoeing. Like my husband said, some things have to fall down. Some things have to blow up. I'm not doing that anymore. I used to do that for you, and and it's hard, and this is feel like this is kind of tearing us up a little bit, but I'm not participating with you anymore.
And I love
and I love you, but I'm not going for that, right? And so when you can set a boundary and you can model that for your partner and say that right there, that's a little abusive. That's coming outside of what's okay with me and for me. People will either rise to the occasion and be like, oh, because what do? We do the best we can with what we know and what we have at the time. Yeah. And if they cannot rise to the occasion, That's more information for you.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. And there's a decision that you need to make. At the end of the day, y'all, none of this stuff can happen. None of these things can start to move forward, and no clarity can happen if you're not willing to call a thing, to tell the truth, and to stop playing.
And start pushing, y'all.
And start pushing. Peace, y'all. It's been a great Relationship Thursday. We see y'all. Bye.